let me bring this up here. The story was Team Liquid and Honda announced naming rights deal. So Team Liquid announced a significant partnership with car manufacturer Honda. The new multi-year deal will see Honda secure naming rights to the organization's League of Legends, LCS, and Academy teams. So they will compete in the LCS under the name Team Liquid Honda. It'll be on their jerseys, all the usual stuff. And they've been teamed up since 2019. So Honda's not new to Team Liquid, but this naming rights deal is new. I'm curious what you guys think of the team naming rights stuff. And I ask, from a business standpoint, right? Like who, the question I usually ask, like who's the bigger winner here, right? Is this better for Team Liquid or better for Honda, without knowing how much Team Liquid actually got for this? But the second question I have is, why don't we see this more in North American traditional sports, but it seems to be getting more accepted in esports, right? We saw TSM FTX, now Team Liquid Honda. Like, why don't we see the H&M New York Yankees or whatever, or like, you know what I mean? Like, why is that not?
Well, why is that not a thing? Because they don't need as much money as the esports teams need, because they have broadcast deals. The big problem in esports is that there's no substitute for the massive TV contracts that we see in really pretty much every other sport. That doesn't happen in esports. We've seen some deals, nothing nearly of the magnitude. And the big question, I feel like we've been talking for 5 years, the industry has, about, hey, these big TV contracts are coming. That's where the catch-up opportunity will be between traditional sports and esports. Hasn't really happened. My sort of like working hypothesis is that there's just too much free content out there on platforms like Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that, where it's a good substitute, right? If you think about basketball, there's no great substitute for watching like the Lakers versus the Bulls or the Knicks or whoever. Whereas esports, there's a pretty good substitute. If you just go on Twitch and watch, pick your favorite streamer, like that's a pretty good substitute for an esports match if you're not a hardcore fan of a team. So I think it keeps the rights down. So that's the big problem. So get back to your initial question. These teams need money, so they're willing to literally sell their own name.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. I think I think Jeff hit a lot of it on its head. That one, the lack of, or rather the sheer amount of content, where it makes it less of a competitive product, and also what the teams need, right, in traditional sports versus esports. I had this conversation about this exact story with a marketing representative for another very well-known global car manufacturing brand. And, we both came to the same conclusion in that, this was a pretty standard partnership. It was pretty basic. There was nothing that really excited either of us. Seemed to be create more value for Team Liquid, I think, more than Honda here, just because Honda is one of those global, not that Team Liquid's small by any means, but it's not Honda's status. It doesn't have Honda's history or reach. But at the end of the day, it's, like what is this? There was an opportunity for Honda, who's spending marketing dollars for this brand deal, where Honda could have been a little bit more engaged. They could have created more content. They could have gone directly to the motorsport side of competitive gaming, which is a really interesting, place. The group of us saw the esports F1 activation in Austin, and that's just one element of it, where there were lines in Austin, Texas, for people to compete and hop on these VR machine, or not VR, but those simulator rigs. So it seems like not a missed opportunity for Honda, but really not as meaningful as it could have been, where Honda could have done something, again, on the motorsport side of things, or just more than just like, here's a bunch of money, put our name on your t-shirt, Not that this isn't a big news, that it's not a great win for esports, because it is a non-endemic brand, like the Nissan Phase deal that we had seen. But it's not unique, and I don't want to bag it for that, or rag on it for that, but I don't know, maybe it's because we cover all the top news stories and all the trending things every single week that we're ahead of the curve over here, I would like to think. But you would hope for something a little bit more. even though this is still a win for esports. It's not the evolution that I would hope to see.
Guys, I just want to hang on. I want to read this. Adam D says, good on them for the partnership, but Liquid Honda is awful in my opinion. I mean, this is where I sort of wanted to take this. Doesn't this feel incredibly lazy? Incredibly lazy as an activation? Because I get why a brand wants to put their name on a stadium, right? Because there's probably 100,000 cars that pass by the biggest stadiums every single day. And, if you see, TD Bank or whatever up in lights on the stadium, or Gillette or whatever, that has value because you're getting eyeballs from just the people who pass by this giant thing every single day. The reality is there anyone who's actually going to call this like Team Liquid Honda? Like, are the casters going to call them Team Liquid Honda? Are the fans going to refer to them as Team Liquid Honda? Probably not, right? This is still probably just Team Liquid. And so I don't know what Honda really gets with naming rights. I feel like there were 100 other better ways to activate with the team to get people excited about the Honda brand. This feels lazy to me. I don't know.
What I will say, I agree with you. What I will say is, especially with a non-endemic brand, maybe they're just dipping their toe in the water. We did have Steve Aronset on the show a couple months ago. He spoke to the incredibly high, I think it was 100% return rate from their sponsors. Wasn't it? I thought it was 100, where the sponsors that they work with come back every single year because of that relationship. This is the first relationship that Honda's having with Liquid, so maybe it's the start of something. But to your point, I'm not out here saying Team TSM FTX, right? So what is this accomplishing really, other than Honda taking a dip in a new field? Which is why I said, it seemed like a missed opportunity for something.
It's hard to say they're dipping their toe. It's almost like they skipped all the steps and that they're going for the whole enchilada. It's like, they could have started with a simple like jersey patch. Instead, they're like, no, change your name. Like that's literally about as deep as you could go if you think about it. Like literally change your name. Though I do agree with
that. But it's also the lowest value thing, right? Like if Honda tomorrow came and said, hey, Business of Esports, here's millions of dollars. We want you to change your name to Business of Esports Honda, right? Like, is anyone going to call the show that, right? Are people going to be like, oh my God, I tune in to the Business of Esports Honda live stream every week? No, people are still going to call it Business of Esports. There are probably better ways we can get Honda's brand in front of our audience. And I think there are better ways Team Liquid can connect Honda and their audience, more creative ways than just renaming.
So I think that's absolutely correct. To be fair, they did mention, I think in one of the articles I read, they're doing some additional stuff. Like they're going to have a lounge. It's called the Honda Lounge. I'm sure the jerseys will have Honda. I imagine the players will drive around. Like there's probably other stuff besides just the name. But I think you're right. There are better ways. Like there are more creative ways to create engagement than just like slapping a name that, you're right, most people will not say. Now, it will be on the jerseys, it will be on the scoreboard, it will be on the press kits, and all the articles will obviously have to say Honda Liquid. So it'll be there. But like when we're talking about it day to day in the vernacular, like we're not going to probably call it Honda Team Liquid. Although maybe we will now because we've had this conversation. We'll do it ironically.
You're all missing the point here. Liquid Honda evokes so many emotions. It's whimsical. It's imaginative. It gets you going. It makes you laugh. I think it's great. I'm going to be imagining Liquid Hondas all day, actually.
All day.
No, but I actually, in the absence of enormous broadcast rights deals, I love seeing things like this go through, and I'm happy for Team Liquid to get a sponsor on board, hopefully show them the wide world of esports, maybe have them sponsor something else and keep money flowing into the industry. So all in all, a good thing. Hilarious.
I love some of these comments, Lindsay, to your point here. Adam R says, I would hate if my Honda was made of liquid. I mean,
really
it does kind of sound weird. Adam D says, having Honda on jerseys similar to branding in the EU soccer teams is 100 times better than changing the name to Liquid Honda. I mean, to be fair, I think they do have the patches. They did say they were going to have the names on the jersey, but agreed. Liquid Honda is weird. Adam R says the Honda Lounge, where the PCs are as powerful as a lawnmower. This is, guys, you should have done this activation. Chat should have done this activation. Adam R says Honda Civic SI themed gaming chairs. I mean, gaming chairs already are car like racing bucket seats, so that's not a stretch, Adam. Kevin says it seems like esports is following the European jersey style with branding included like soccer, rugby, Euro basketball. Meanwhile, the US has been slow to get there. I mean, to Jeff's point, the U.S. maybe doesn't need to go there, right? Like the big North American sports teams, because they just don't need the money.
They are themselves the brand. I mean, they are doing some jersey patch sponsorships, like in the NBA, but it's like they don't need to sell their naming rights because they just make so much money that it would cheapen their overall brand. What is interesting is that we don't see more, and maybe we do see this a little bit, but like, I was thinking of the analogy like golf. Like every tournament seems to be sponsored by somebody. You have like the Honda Classic, which I was thinking of this. Yeah, the RBC, the Barclays. Like every event seems to have like a title sponsor, and it really works because then the whole week you're hearing about, hey, who's winning the Barclays tournament? Who's winning the Honda Classic? Like it's just, I think it actually might be better than this. So I'm surprised we don't see more of that in esports. We see it a little bit.
I've had funny thoughts about that exact thing, Jeff, with golf, because there's one tournament which is called the Waste Management Open. And every time I hear it, I go, what a horrible name for a tournament. Like, I get that it's the corporate sponsor, but it's a horrible name for a tournament. Like, this is horrible branding. But maybe it works because I always remember it. And it's it's a big golf tournament, but I don't know if naming anything after the sponsor helps the sponsor really. I'm not convinced. Let's put it that way.